In the vast silence of space, the hum of the USS Horizon was the only sound Captain Elias Markov could hear as he gazed at the star-studded void from the observation deck. The calm was broken by his communications officer, Lieutenant Jameson, who approached with an urgent look. "Captain, we've intercepted a distress signal from the Zeta Reticuli system. It's not human," Jameson reported, handing Elias a tablet displaying the signal's complex patterns. Elias studied the data, his brow furrowed. "Have we decoded it yet?" "Partially. It's a call for aid. Clear signs of a civilization in distress. The language isn't in our databanks, but the AI is working on a full translation." "Prepare a team, Jameson. We're going to check this out. Alert Dr. Singh and Commander Petrov. I want us ready to jump in 2 hours." The crew of the USS Horizon worked swiftly. As they approached the coordinates, the dark shape of a crippled alien vessel came into view, its hull scarred and smoldering from what appeared to be a recent battle. Elias, Jameson, Dr. Singh, a xenolinguist, and Commander Petrov, the ship's chief of security, suited up and boarded their shuttle. The interior of the alien ship was dimly lit and eerily quiet. The walls were lined with strange, luminescent panels, pulsating softly, guiding them deeper into the ship. In the main chamber, they found a group of aliens. They were thin, with translucent skin that shimmered in the light. Their large, luminous eyes watched cautiously as the humans approached. Dr. Singh stepped forward, her translator device held out. "We come in peace," she said, her voice echoing slightly in the vast chamber. The device whirred, converting her words into the aliens' language. One of the aliens stepped forward, a male with markings that suggested a position of authority. "I am Soran, chief of the Raltoran. We are scholars, lost and far from our home. We seek refuge." Elias nodded, extending his hand, a gesture of peace. "I'm Captain Elias Markov of the Earth vessel Horizon. We received your distress call. How can we assist you?" Soran hesitated, then placed his hand in Elias's. "Our ship was attacked by the Krath. They hunt us, for we have refused to serve their empire. Many of us are injured, and our ship is beyond repair." Commander Petrov stepped up. "We can provide medical assistance and help repair your ship. Our engineers are quite skilled." "Thank you, Commander," Soran replied, his voice filled with gratitude. "Your offer is generous. We have much to learn from one another." Over the next few hours, the Horizon's crew worked alongside the Raltoran. Dr. Singh and Soran exchanged knowledge about their languages and cultures, finding joy in their shared love of learning. Jameson coordinated the repair teams, marveling at the Raltoran's advanced technology, while Petrov ensured the security of both the human and alien teams. As they worked, Elias pondered the situation. These Raltoran were peaceful, their society built on knowledge and understanding, not conflict. Yet the universe seemed to be a place where such ideals were challenged by harsher realities. Soran approached Elias, his expression somber. "Captain, we know of Earth. You are young to the stars, but brave. We did not expect such kindness from strangers." Elias smiled. "Perhaps today is a good day to start changing expectations, Soran. Let's get your people safe first. Then we can talk about dealing with the Krath." The beginning of what promised to be a complex alliance hummed through the ship as the first day of contact came to a close. As night settled over the sector, the lights of the horizon flickered softly, a sign of humanity's undying curiosity and newfound friendships among the stars. The mess hall of the USS Horizon was bustling as Captain Elias Markov sat down with his core team to discuss the situation. The faces around the table were serious, reflecting the gravity of what they had learned from their new allies, the Raltoran. From what Soran tells us, the Krath are not just a threat to them, but potentially to all civilized space. Elias began, his voice carrying over the murmur of the crew. "Their technology is advanced, and their motives are hostile." Commander Petrov leaned forward, his features hardened by the prospect of conflict. "We need to prepare, not just defensively, but also to possibly take the fight to them, if necessary." Dr. Singh, ever the voice of reason, added, "We need more intelligence. Understanding the Krath's culture and strategies could give us an edge." Lieutenant Jameson nodded in agreement. "I suggest we send recon drones to gather data on Krath movements and tactics." Elias considered the suggestions. "All good points. Dr. Singh, work with Soran to learn everything we can about the Krath. Jameson, get those drones ready. Petrov, start drills. We need every hand ready for what might come." As the meeting dispersed, Elias walked over to the ship's gym where many of his crew were engaged in physical training. Observing them, an idea began to form. The ancient Earth history he loved could perhaps inspire his crew. Turning to the ship's cultural officer, Lieutenant Carter, he shared his thoughts. I want to introduce something new to the crew. A code, like the knights of old. Honor, protection, courage. It could boost morale and give us a framework for what's coming. Carter, intrigued, agreed enthusiastically. I'll start pulling up all the historical data we have on knights, their codes, their training. It could really solidify the crew's resolve. Over the next few weeks, the concept of the knight began to take hold among the crew. Training sessions included not just physical readiness, but also discussions on ethical warfare, responsibility, and the protection of those who could not protect themselves. Elias himself led by example, adopting the mantle of a knight both in action and in demeanor. Meanwhile, Dr. Singh and Saran worked tirelessly. They decrypted more of the Krath's communications, piecing together a clearer picture of their empire. The Krath were expansionists, subjugating or annihilating any species that stood in their way. In the late hours of one evening, as Elias reviewed the latest reports, Jameson burst into his office. Captain, the drones came through. We've got a location on the nearest Krath fleet. Elias looked up sharply, a mix of apprehension and determination in his eyes. Prepare a briefing. First light, we plan our next move. As dawn broke over the horizon, Elias stood before his assembled crew, their faces a sea of focused intensity. We are not just crewmates now, he declared. We are knights. Our mission is to protect humanity and our allies, like the roran. We stand for justice, and we fight against tyranny. Today, we start planning not just to defend, but to take the fight to the Krath. We do this not out of hatred, but to protect and preserve. The crew erupted in cheers, the weight of their new identity fortifying their resolve. They were no longer just soldiers, they were knights of the cosmos, and with that title came a profound commitment to fight, to defend, and to honor the noblest aspects of humanity. The council chamber on Zelara was filled with a heavy silence, broken only by the somber voice of Elder Varric. The holographic displays flickered with images of their cities in ruins, the aftermath of the latest Cryptar attack. The room, usually a place of vibrant debate and decision-making, now reflected the despair of a dying civilization. We've done all we can, Elder Varric sighed, addressing the assembly of Zelarian leaders. Our defenses can't withstand another assault. Without help, our civilization is at the brink of extinction. Commander Tolan, the military head, stood from his seat, his face etched with frustration. Our weapons are ineffective, and our soldiers are overwhelmed. We've heard rumors of powerful allies in the cosmos, but none have responded to our pleas for aid. As the leaders debated their grim options, a junior officer rushed into the chamber, a message tablet in hand. Elders, we've intercepted a transmission. It's not from the Cryptars. The room's atmosphere shifted slightly, curiosity peaking amidst the despair. Varric motioned for the officer to continue. It's a human spacecraft, the Vanguard. They've received our distress signal and are en route to Zelara. They're offering assistance. Commander Tolan exchanged a skeptical look with Varric. Humans were known in the galaxy, but more for their curiosity than their might. Humans. What aid can they possibly offer against the Cryptars? Meanwhile, aboard the Vanguard, Captain Michael Reed reviewed the Zelarian plea with his second-in-command, Lieutenant Jacobs. The audio from Zelara played again in the small utilitarian command office, the desperation clear even through the static. Jacobs was hesitant. Sir, are we sure about this? Our last mission was tough enough, and Earth Command isn't exactly encouraging heroics that don't serve direct Earth interests. Reed, a seasoned explorer and soldier, had seen many civilizations. Something in the Zelarian's message struck a chord within him, a reminder of his own battles, both in space and within himself. Jake, I've spent my career watching worlds bend under threats. We might be what stands between these people and annihilation. We're going. Back on Zelara, as the news of the humans' arrival spread, the council chamber buzzed with a mix of hope and doubt. Varric addressed Commander Tolan and the assembly. Prepare to meet with Captain Reed upon his arrival. Let's assess what the humans can offer. We have little to lose at this point. The leaders nodded in agreement, their desperation making the decision clear. If help was coming, they would embrace it, albeit cautiously. As the Vanguard approached Zelara, the crew prepared for what might be their most challenging mission yet. Reed stood at the helm, watching the star-streaked space give way to the blue and green orb of Zelara ahead. "Approaching Zelara," announced the helmsman. "All systems go for orbital entry." Reed turned to Jacobs, his resolve firm. "Let's see what we can do for these people, Jake. Prepare the crew for potential combat and humanitarian aid." Jacobs nodded, the weight of their undertaking settling in. "Yes, sir. Let's hope we're what they need." As the Vanguard entered Zelara's orbit, the Zelarians gathered, watching the skies, their anxiety mixed with a fragile thread of hope. The arrival of the Vanguard could mark the end of their despair or the beginning of something even more catastrophic. The skies over Mars were ablaze with the fire of battle as Captain Elias Markov led the task force into the fray. The red planet below, with its sprawling colonies and domed cities, was now the front line in humanity's desperate stand against the Krath invasion. "Visual on enemy cruisers, they're in formation around Phobos," reported Lieutenant Jameson, his voice tense as he monitored the battle from the Horizon's bridge. The moons of Mars had become strategic points, with Phobos housing a critical defense platform. "Direct all squadrons to engage. Target their flanks where their armor is weakest," commanded Elias, his eyes never leaving the view screen. Commander Petrov, coordinating the fleet's maneuvers, added, "I have Alpha and Delta wings circling for a pincer move. We'll box them in." The battle was intense, with each side exchanging volleys of plasma and kinetic fire. Human pilots maneuvered with precision, their training and Elias's tactics giving them an edge. But the Krath's superior numbers were relentless. On the ground, the situation was just as dire. Dr. Singh, who had stayed on Mars to assist with civilian evacuations, communicated the urgency of the situation. "Captain, we need more cover for the evac transports. The Krath are targeting civilian sectors." "Understood, Doctor," Elias replied, his voice firm. "Petrov, reroute support to the civilian zones. Protect those transports at all costs." As the battle progressed, a grim picture began to emerge. Despite their valiant efforts, human forces were slowly being pushed back. The Krath's methodical and merciless advance was overwhelming the defenders. "We've lost contact with Gamma Squadron, Captain," Jameson reported, his voice laced with frustration. "And there's a breach in the primary defense grid on the surface." Elias clenched his jaw, feeling the weight of each loss. "Send in reserves to Gamma's last known position. Patch me through to the ground commanders. We're not giving up Mars without a fight." The communication channels were a cacophony of reports, orders, and calls for assistance. Amidst this, Elias's voice was a beacon of determination, rallying his troops and coordinating a defense that was as spirited as it was desperate. However, the turning point came when a massive Krath dreadnought entered the orbit, its guns trained on the largest of Mars' cities, New Ares. The Horizon sensors lit up with warnings as the dreadnought charged its primary weapon. "We have to take that dreadnought down," Elias decided swiftly. "All ships, focus your fire." Before he could finish, a brilliant beam of energy cut through the space, striking New Ares. The city's shields flickered and failed under the onslaught, and the devastating impact was visible even from orbit. Silence fell over the Horizon's bridge. The loss was palpable, the shock of it hitting each officer hard. Elias's heart sank. The battle for Mars was lost. He made the hard call. "All units, fall back. We need to regroup and conserve what forces we have left. We're retreating to Earth." The retreat was a somber affair. Ships battered and bruised, some barely holding together, made their way back towards Earth, the shadow of defeat cast long over their return. Once back on Earth, Elias faced the Council and the remaining military leaders. The mood was grave. The loss of Mars was a blow not just strategically, but morally. "We fought bravely, but it wasn't enough," Elias addressed the assembly. "We need to learn from this. We need to be better, not just for us, but for the memory of those we've lost." As plans were made for Earth's defense, Elias walked out to the memorial garden, a quiet spot for fallen heroes. He paused before the names of the recent dead, etched into stone. In this moment of reflection, Elias renewed his vow, not just to fight, but to uphold the ideals of those who had sacrificed everything. The war was far from over, and Elias knew the real battle was just beginning. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting long shadows over the Earth Defense Command, where Captain Elias Markov stood, overseeing the deployment of Earth's last line of defense. The previous defeats had been harsh, but Elias knew that the battle for Earth would be decisive. It was not just about defending a planet, it was about safeguarding humanity's future. Commander Petrov approached with the latest updates. The Krath fleet is in position just beyond the moon's orbit. Their numbers are greater than we anticipated. It's going to be a tough fight, Captain. Elias nodded, his gaze fixed on the live feed showing the dark silhouettes of the Krath ships against the backdrop of space. We knew they wouldn't make this easy. Have all units been briefed on the new tactics? Yes, sir, Petrov confirmed. We've integrated the anti-Krath weaponry that Dr. Singh and the roran developed. It's untested, but it's the best shot we have. As the Krath began their approach, Elias issued his commands with calm precision. Launch all fighter squadrons. Activate defense satellites Alpha through Echo. Tell all ground units to stand by for my signal. The ensuing battle was ferocious. The Earth's skies lit up with the exchange of powerful weapons as both sides unleashed their fury. The newly developed human weapons, incorporating roran technology, began to show their effectiveness, catching the Krath by surprise and giving Earth's forces a much-needed edge. Lieutenant Jameson, now acting as tactical coordinator, relayed real-time updates to Elias. We've successfully taken down 3 Krath destroyers, Captain. The new pulse turrets are effective. Good, keep pressing them. We can't let them regroup. Elias responded, his voice a constant presence over the comm. Amidst the chaos, a larger Krath battleship managed to breach the outer defense perimeter and headed straight for Earth's atmosphere. Elias quickly assembled a strike team, including himself, to intercept. Boarding one of the faster intercept fighters, he led the team into the heart of the conflict. As they neared the battleship, Elias felt the weight of his responsibility heavier than ever. This is it, he said over the comm to his team. We take down this ship, or we don't go home. The dogfight was intense, with Elias and his team maneuvering through a deadly web of enemy fire. Using a combination of skilled piloting and tactical ingenuity, they managed to disable the battleship's shields. Elias personally fired the torpedo that ultimately breached the hull, causing a critical explosion that sent the ship careening away from Earth, breaking apart under the strain. Returning to the command center, Elias was greeted with cheers. The victory was a turning point, providing a much-needed boost to the morale of Earth's forces. However, the battle was far from over. The Krath were regrouping for another assault, and Elias knew that each victory came at a high cost. As the day wore on, the Earth's defenses held strong under Elias's leadership. Each officer, pilot, and soldier played their part, united under the banner of their newfound knighthood, fighting not just for survival, but for the ideals that Elias had instilled in them. As night fell, the final wave of Krath ships made a desperate attempt to breach the defenses. It was a fierce confrontation, but bolstered by their earlier successes and driven by a resolve to protect their home, the defenders of Earth pushed back with unmatched bravery and strategy. Finally, as the first light of dawn broke over the horizon once more, the remnants of the Krath fleet retreated. Earth had held its ground, battered but unbroken. Elias stood amidst his crew, their faces weary but filled with pride. We held them, he said, addressing the exhausted but jubilant crowd. Today we proved that we are not just survivors. We are protectors, guardians of our world. Rest now. We remain vigilant, ready to defend our home, always. The Battle of Terra was over, but the war continued. Yet, for now, Earth was safe, and humanity could finally catch its breath, ready to face whatever challenges came next under the steady leadership of Captain Elias Markov, Knight of Earth. After the hard-won victory in the Battle of Terra, Captain Elias Markov recognized that merely defending was not enough to ensure Earth's future security. The Krath needed to be pushed back decisively. A bold plan was hatched to strike at the heart of the Krath's power. Their flagship, which orbited a desolate moon in a nearby system, serving as the command center for their invasion forces. Elias assembled a diverse team for the mission, including Commander Petrov, Lieutenant Jameson, and several specialists in Krath technology provided by the roran. The plan was straightforward but perilous. Infiltrate the Krath flagship, sabotage its core systems, and eliminate their high command. We're not just fighting for survival now, we're fighting to end this threat, Elias briefed his team aboard their stealth shuttle. Our goal is to create chaos in their ranks and give us the upper hand in the war. Navigating through space undetected, the team approached the massive Krath flagship. It loomed before them, bristling with armaments and guarded by a fleet of patrol ships. This is it. Keep it quiet, whispered Petrov as they maneuvered closer, using a captured Krath fighter to avoid arousing suspicion. Inside the flagship, the human team split into groups. Elias and Petrov headed to the command center to confront the Krath leader, while Jameson and the others planted explosives near the ship's power core. Stealthily, Elias and Petrov made their way through the dimly lit corridors of the flagship, avoiding patrols and disabling security systems. They reached the command center, where the Krath commander, a towering figure clad in ornate armor, was overseeing the battle plans against Earth. Without hesitation, Elias stepped forward, his presence commanding the room. "Your campaign against Earth ends here," he declared boldly. The Krath commander turned, his voice a deep rumble of amusement. "You are bold, human, to come here, but you are mistaken if you think this changes anything." Dialogue quickly turned to conflict as Elias and Petrov engaged the Krath commander and his guards. The skirmish was intense, showcasing Elias's training and strategic prowess, honed from his time embodying the role of a knight. Meanwhile, Jameson reported success. "Charges are set. We're ready to blow the core on your command, Captain." Elias, amidst the duel, gave a curt nod. "Do it now." The explosion rocked the flagship, systems failing, lights flickering. In the chaos, Elias found an opening, his blade finding a chink in the commander's armor. The Krath leader fell, his defeat a critical blow to the morale of his troops. With the commander down, Elias and Petrov made a quick retreat to the rendezvous point, fighting their way through disoriented Krath soldiers, confused by the sudden turn of events. The team exfiltrated just as the flagship's secondary explosions began, the sabotage causing a cascade of failures throughout the ship. They watched from their shuttle as the flagship, the heart of the Krath invasion force, was consumed by fire and debris. "Mission accomplished," Elias said, relief and fatigue evident in his voice. "Let's get home." The impact of the mission was immediate and profound. News of the destruction of the Krath flagship and the death of their commander spread quickly, sowing confusion and disarray among the Krath forces. This victory was not just tactical but symbolic, striking fear into the heart of the enemy and galvanizing other civilizations to resist. As they journeyed back to Earth, Elias reflected on the cost and the gains. They had struck a significant blow, but the war was not over yet. However, with their newfound courage and strategic advantage, humanity stood a better chance than ever at securing peace and safety for the galaxy. This mission had proven that the human spirit, fortified by ideals and bravery, could challenge even the mightiest foes. In the wake of the successful mission against the Krath flagship, a new sense of determination rippled through humanity's ranks. Captain Elias Markov, now celebrated as a pivotal leader, stood at the forefront of organizing the next phase of the interstellar conflict. The Krath, reeling from the loss of their commander and their flagship, were disorganized, providing a crucial opportunity for Earth's forces. Back at Earth Defense Command, Elias convened a strategic meeting with his top advisors, including Commander Petrov and Lieutenant Jameson. The mood was cautiously optimistic as they reviewed the latest intelligence reports. "Satellite arrays show significant disarray in their fleet formations. They're vulnerable," Jameson reported, pointing to the holographic images flickering above the table. Petrov chimed in, his voice steady. "It's time to take the offensive. We push them out of our system and reclaim our outposts. We can't let this momentum slip through our fingers." Elias nodded, his mind racing with possibilities. "We'll launch a series of coordinated strikes across all fronts. We'll use hit-and-run tactics, keep them off balance." The next weeks were a blur of activity as Earth's forces launched one operation after another. Space battles became frequent, with human ships darting through starfields, striking at Krath positions, and then swiftly retreating before enemy reinforcements could arrive. On the ground, guerrilla warfare tactics were reinvigorated, with fighters inspired by Elias's leadership and the ethos of the knights they had come to admire. During a critical battle to retake a mining colony on the asteroid belt, Elias personally led a daring spacewalk assault. Clad in armored suits, he and his team navigated the debris-laden orbit, planting explosives on Krath supply depots. The operation was risky, but the payoff was immense, dealing a significant blow to the Krath's logistical capabilities. After securing the asteroid belt, Elias received communication from the roran. Soran, speaking on behalf of his people, expressed profound gratitude and a desire to deepen their collaboration. "Your courage has given us hope. We wish to share new defensive technologies that could protect your planets and ships from future attacks." Grateful, Elias accepted the offer, and human and Raltoran engineers began working closely, integrating alien tech with Earth's defenses, creating shields and weapon systems far superior to anything previously imagined. As Earth's tactical position strengthened, Elias took a moment to address his troops, his speech broadcast across all human territories. This fight has shown us what we are capable of when we stand together, united by a cause greater than ourselves. Each of you, from the pilots in the void to the engineers in the hangars and the fighters on the ground, has shown the heart of a knight. We are not just fighting for survival. We are fighting for the right of all beings to live free from tyranny. The morale boost was tremendous. Across human-controlled space, people rallied, volunteering in greater numbers, driven by the words of a leader who had come to embody their hopes and determination. As Earth's forces began reclaiming lost ground, reports came in of other civilizations, once subdued by the Krath, starting to rebel. The tide was turning, not just in the battlefields, but in the hearts and minds across the galaxy. The war was far from over, but humanity now stood on firmer ground, with allies by their side and a clear vision for the future. Under Elias's leadership, Earth was not just defending. It was leading a charge that would redefine the balance of power in the galaxy. The Knights of Earth, as they were now known, became symbols of resilience and defenders of freedom, inspiring countless others to join the cause and fight back against the Krath oppression. As the war between Earth and the Krath Empire drew to a close, the galaxy had changed irrevocably. Earth, once a newcomer to the cosmic stage, had emerged as a beacon of strength and unity. Captain Elias Markov, having led his forces through countless battles, was now seen not just as a military leader, but as a visionary who had reshaped the path of human destiny. In the war's final days, a peace treaty was brokered. The Krath, significantly weakened and unable to sustain their campaign against humanity and its allies, agreed to a cessation of hostilities. The treaty was signed aboard the USS Horizon, the very ship that had once intercepted the desperate plea for help from the Raltoran. Soran, representing the Raltoran, was present, his presence a testament to the deep bond that had formed between the two races. Elias stood before the assembly of human leaders and alien representatives, his uniform adorned with medals, but his eyes reflecting the weariness of a long-fought war. Today, we mark the end of a conflict that has tested us in ways we never imagined. We've seen devastation, but also incredible acts of bravery and compassion. Let this treaty not just signify the end of war, but the beginning of a new era of cooperation and peace. The applause was thunderous, echoing through the chamber and across the broadcasts to every corner of human and allied territories. Post-war reconstruction began almost immediately, with Earth and the Raltoran leading initiatives to rebuild war-torn worlds and establish interstellar trade and cultural exchanges. The concept of the Knight had spread far and wide, symbolizing the ideals of bravery, honor, and protection. Schools teaching the knightly codes and philosophies sprang up, not just on Earth but on other planets, shaping a new generation who revered these principles. Elias, however, chose this moment of peace as his time to step back from his role in the spotlight. He retired from active duty, passing on the leadership to capable successors trained under his guidance. He moved to a quiet colony on one of Earth's newly terraformed worlds, seeking a simpler life, though his legacy continued to shape military and diplomatic strategies. Years later, as an old man, Elias sat on the porch of his home, looking up at the stars. A group of children from the colony, having heard of his legendary exploits, approached him with eyes wide with curiosity. "Tell us a story, Captain Markov," they asked eagerly, gathering around him. Elias smiled, his eyes twinkling. "All right, let me tell you about the Knights of the Cosmos, the brave souls who fought not just with weapons but with their hearts. They believed in something greater than themselves, and that belief helped light the darkest hours of their journey." As he recounted the tales, the children listened, enraptured, to stories of battles and alliances, of sacrifice and victories. Each story was a thread in the rich tapestry of humanity's ascent to the stars, woven through with the enduring ideals of the Knights. The legend of the Knight, as told by Elias, would live on, passed down through generations, a narrative of how humanity had faced the darkest threats with unwavering courage and had emerged not just victorious, but noble. Under starlit skies, Elias's voice carried on the gentle night breeze, a reminder that even the most tumultuous storms could be weathered when one stood firm in the defense of their ideals and the protection of their kin. His stories, a blend of history and heroism, would inspire not just the children before him, but countless others, ensuring that the legacy of the Knights of Earth would endure, a guiding light for the future.